Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss one of the paradoxes of British politics. It never seems to go away because the public never seem to cotton on. When politicians talk about slashing red tape, they will inevitably only introduce more. Brexit is a perfect example of this. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So one of the big lies about Brexit was that it would allow us to slash red tape. Politicians in Britain, at least, I'm not sure about other countries, are always going on about the blight of red tape. Really, mostly conservative politicians, really. Oh, it's terrible, they say. We're going to slash it. That'll be the solution to all your problems. Going to slash red tape. The problem is that red tape for the Tories is like Muslim extremists for Trump's presidency. It's a threat that's used to cow the population that doesn't actually exist as a serious threat to the nation. You know, I saw someone recounting the time when in 2012, David Cameron, Prime Minister at the time, ordered a £5 million investigation into excessive EU red tape in the UK. I gather it was supposed to be about just under £2 million. It cost £5 million. Big old investigation. We need to find all this excessive EU red tape. It says we're going to slash EU red tape. It's all the EU's fault. They're giving us all this bureaucracy. We're going to find it, root it out and get rid of it. Too much red tape, he cried. Using the same refrain as so many Tory leaders before him. You know, £5 million later, and the committee that he set up found that actually there wasn't any. Because where red tape exists, it exists for a reason. Either protection of the state, the general public, or in fact to cut down on red tape. You can have regulations that are there to make life easier for us all. You know, the single market was a good example of that. Cameron then tried to bury the report. He's gone, hang on a minute, I've spent £5 million on trying to find this excessive EU red tape that I said existed, and you're telling me it doesn't? Bloody hell, we can't show this report to too many people. So what he'd actually proven was that EU membership was pretty good for us in keeping red tape down. 8 years later, and we're all paying the price for Cameron's weakness, when he should have been building up the benefits of the EU. Oh, lads, I spent a load of money trying to find this EU red tape. Turns out there isn't any. Oh, it's brilliant being in the EU. No, there were none of that. Now it's Boris Johnson's turn to say he's going to slash red tape. He's charged his Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, a man who's been very quiet for the last couple of months, which is very odd because the Chancellor is basically the most senior member of government, you know, apart from the Prime Minister himself. And, anyone would think he was trying to sort of lay low at the moment to avoid any damage from what's going on right now to position himself for a promotion later this year. But anyway, it is Sunak's job apparently to slash EU red tape. Except, of course, this is a complete nonsense. We're less than 3 weeks into Brexit and we have now proven, should have been evident before, now it's absolutely proven, that EU membership reduced, not increased, bureaucracy. We no longer need Cameron's hugely expensive report. The fishing industry, for example, is on its arse. Boris Johnson is now promising them compensation. Now, I'd be sceptical as to how much compensation he's actually going to be giving, but in terms of what he's promising, the cost is already estimated to be about £23 million. We are 3 weeks in to this introduction of red tape that didn't exist as EU members or even as non-members in the customs union single market. It's already cost this, and it's a tiny industry. The fishing industry is tiny. To the nearest percent, it's worth 0% of our economy. And it's already racked up costs caused by bureaucracy of £23 million in less than 3 weeks. Imagine what it's doing to our entire economy. If someone were to do the maths on that, imagine what that would be. That's after a few weeks. And we know that our trade has been disrupted really badly, despite a government minister yesterday trying to say that, oh, no, actually this disruption's down to COVID. It's like, you're having a laugh. COVID's been in the country for a year. It's been in the UK for a year. It's been pretty bad for nearly a year. And yet we had overnight trade disruption on the same day we exited the customs union single market, and yet it's down to COVID. Behave yourself. The cause is obvious, and businesses are also clear about what the issue is: red tape. They know they have to fill in forms that weren't needed before. Those forms are extremely complicated. It means you have to either hire new staff to do it, or you have to pay, you have to subcontract it out to a logistics firm. We need more customs officials on the government side to deal with that red tape as well. 50,000 people worth of red tape is having to be hired because of exiting the customs union single market. No other reason. Lorries can no longer just pick up their load, drive to Dover and cross over. They now have to get a special permit to even be allowed to drive into the county of Kent. And from there, they don't just get to drive to the port. No. I know you've got the green light, but you haven't got the green light, you know what I mean? They've got to go to a lorry park for another green light, extended more checks, you know. But Boris Johnson has been telling business leaders, and a bit of a remote call, that he's now in a position to cut red tape for them. They know it's bollocks. Most should have known it before, quite frankly. Any still believe in it now deserve to go to the wall, quite frankly. I just feel sorry for their employees, in more ways than one, because there will be no reduction in EU red tape for two clear reasons. One, as has been ably demonstrated, the EU actually existed to actively reduce levels of bureaucracy for businesses and general members of the public. And we've seen that because both businesses and general members of the public, when they need to do anything overseas, have now paperwork to fill in that they didn't before, and checks and queues, more time. You know, nobody can name me a single piece of paperwork that we used to have to slog through and no longer do now that we've left the EU. The second reason is that EU red tape's got nothing to do with the UK now. We have no say in EU related paperwork. If it's required, we will fill it in, and we'll fill it in exactly how the EU wants us to fill it in. Otherwise, we're not going to get what the paperwork was intended for. You know, if we don't fill in our paperwork to be able to travel into the EU, we're not traveling to the EU. If we don't want to fill in paperwork to export to the EU, we won't be exporting to the EU. Is Johnson trying to tell these fishermen to just send their fish to France and to hell with the paperwork again? You know, like he did with Northern Ireland? Don't be daft. They're going nowhere without it. So what does he mean? He means our rights. Saying EU red tape is designed to distract. It's not EU red tape he's talking about. And he's also not trying to fool business leaders into that's what he's talking about. He's actually just trying to fool members of the public who read the articles on his speech, such as in the Times, for example. What this is about deregulation, which it clearly is. It's not hidden under there. That's what he's talking about. Because in conservative speak, regulations are what, when they talk about red tape, they don't mean paperwork. What they mean is regulations, things that are designed to protect us. They see it as something that binds them. For example, safety laws in the workplace. Oh, it's a pain in the arse, isn't it? I mean, Isambard Kingdom Brunel killed loads of workers in his time. Construction of the Hoover Dam in America killed loads of people. If only we were allowed to kill our people again without people making a fuss and making us fill in forms about it. Imagine the great feats of engineering we could once again create. That's the problem. That's why Britain's not doing well enough. We're not allowed to kill our workers and then just get new ones in. That's how the thinking goes in their minds. And while we're at it, what's all this about giving workers time off? Again, they don't understand what productivity is. They just think about a worker having, you know, a set amount of productivity. It doesn't matter how well trained they are, how experienced they are, how rested they are, how motivated they are. No, they have a productivity quotient. And they only think in terms of hours worked. Well, if you get them to work more hours, they're more productive, aren't they? And they think in proportion. That's what they think. Even though better run countries have shown this to be a complete nonsense. They've actually shown if you reduce the amount of hours worked, you can actually get higher productivity. Well, that doesn't make sense to a conservative. You know, there's so many things that I could go through that are just wrong with the business brains of conservatives. But it is what it is, and those pickled walnuts behind their eyes are not for changing. The red tape that Johnson wants Sunak to throw onto the bonfire is not bureaucracy, which is what many people understand by red tape. It's our rights and standards of living and working. And even the Times, which is a pro-conservative paper, in its report had to note that Boris Johnson only took pre-approved questions. In other words, he wrote his own questions. He didn't even have the confidence to take genuine questions from business leaders, the people that he thinks are going to be in favour of this. How much more would he fear questions from those who are actually going to be badly affected by this? And final point, I also note that he talked about achieving net zero carbon emissions. Oh, he's got to remember to get his environmental credentials in there. Oh yeah, throw that in as well. But here's the thing about, you know, achieving zero carbon emissions is that that's going to require regulations to achieve. Because that's red tape, isn't it, Prime Minister? Because that's the thing, you know, legislation, regulations, public expenditure. That's all a government have got to deliver on any ambition they have. That's it. And those are all things that Boris Johnson, like so many Tory leaders before him, is talking about reducing. So when he's talking about reducing use of the tools that he has to achieve something, what he's actually talking about is reducing his level of ambition. Throwing national ambition onto the bonfire. That's what he's actually saying. So, and the funny thing is about red tape is that when you genuinely try to get rid of it, you actually only end up adding more. Because when a system is set up to genuinely deal with an issue and you put the right people in charge and you don't interfere politically, they'll come up with a system that works well. And if you then try and set up something that pretends to be something else, if you set something up that pretends to be a better version, you actually end up just making it more complicated and cumbersome than necessary. You know, just to give an astronomical example. Ptolemy's mechanism for the solar system. Now, the solar system is a simple enough arrangement. We now understand that. It's quite simple. Kepler's laws of motion is beautifully simple. But Ptolemy, in ancient Greece, tried to explain the motion of the planets in an Earth-centered system. Oh no, the Earth's at the centre, he said. And to explain the motion of the planets, he came up with a model that worked, absolutely worked, but it was fiendishly complicated. It's ridiculously complicated. It had planets doing this whilst going around the sun. You know, in politics and business, just like in nature, simple solutions are best. And then we need to remember that this deregulation he's talking about is talking yet again about becoming this Singapore on the Thames, which is a term the EU came up with as a thing. You are not becoming this. This massive deregulation comes at a cost. Because if it gives British businesses an unfair advantage over EU ones, which is the intention, the EU will simply take corrective action. And do you know what that corrective action is? That's right, more EU red tape and cost, not less. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.